When season 6s are all thinking we're oppressed, I'll volunteer to be tribute to the newest 4. We've already sacrificed TJ.
We're all on here.
Doesn't matter.
We all have to do it.
I have a traditional fixation is resentment. I think that a better fixation for ones is hypersensitivity. In fact, I think resentment might be the sin. I'm kind of wrestling with this. You all have terminology. Go ahead.
Oh, it's resentment.
And I'm going to tell you why I had a new discovery about resentment, which I've hated this, but
Burst into
recently I'm
flames.
like, okay,
keep
this
going.
is a thing.
I'm curious. Hey, Jeff. Good morning. I'm
drinking
curious about hypersensitivity when self-over-control is incredibly important to type 1. I think resentment, especially when we realize that it is that one always points their weapons at themselves first, right? It is a way that keeps things in line. It's in the anger family. It keeps things in line. And for a type 1 to be able to mentally go back there, to cognitively mistake that as this is how I get what I want, it makes sense, right? Hypersensitivity is typically a word that I associate with 5. So I'm curious how hypersensitivity could be used as a tool.
I think it would be the case. Let me unpack hypersensitivity for a second. I just think it's a mental state that I experience. I can biographically pitch this, that anger at the world and at myself gets moved into my mind. What does it look like? Well, now I'm starting to get real picky about the ways that other people are screwing up and the ways that I myself am screwing up. And living in that space of hyper excessive standard making and quote unquote like a sensitivity to what is flawed, that strikes me as a worthy way to think about a fixation for a 1.
I hear you. I think that is one piece of the puzzle. And if we isolate it in its own little grouping and then we include other things like, traditional anger and all of its cousins, and we group it and then in its own little family, and then envy of all of its and all of envy's classmates, and we group it and we put all those 3 islands together, I think that does make resentment. I think what you are describing might be a piece of the puzzle, being incredibly sensitive to the things that you would, what you refer to as that you're picky about or whatever. But what happens when that happens for a long time, resentment and all of the things that flow from there. So that's my thought, and I do think it includes what you are describing. But when I think of like flattery and melancholy and stinginess, there is a reason. There's a tool. There's a reason for, like 7s. I use the phrase over planning instead of planning, right? But there's something that it provides. There is something that resentment, I think, provides that hypersensitivity doesn't. What are your thoughts on that, Jeff?
Quick thought, and I would love the other twos, I like, because we've talked about this a couple times, and I think I consistently pivot towards saying resentment is relational, which means that I'm moving more into a unhealthy stress space.
Some resentment is.
Possibly.
Not all resentment. Resentment is a response in the anger family. It's to ongoing chronic dissatisfaction. So it can be towards a person for certain. They're actually easier to name, but
no, that could be true. It could be both. And when you've paired it with envy, I think this is helpful. By the way, and I'm going back on me saying resentment's maybe the sin here, but thoughts from the others.
So the conscious thought that I have here to represent resentment is, why am I the only one who gets this right? Why am I the only one who works this hard? Why am I the only one who actually blah, 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 blah? Like, that is the thing that gets spun up on. Like, I'm the one who knows how to do this, who knows what the standard should be, who can do it fast enough, good enough, da 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 da. That is resentment. And the other thing I want to say,
what's the difference between that and pride in your mind? Or are those real similar?
pride, well, I think we can let Jackie speak to that, but I do have thoughts about that. But it doesn't sound the same. It's like pride is a much more, I would say, positive feeling experience, because it's like, I know. Pride is like, oh, I can. And resentment is the like body, like what is the deal with everybody?
Because resentment ends up coming from pride at some point too. So what Kristen's saying,
but
does make
again,
sense.
these all work together. And the other thing I want to say about hypersensitivity is I think you could argue we are all hypersensitive around our thing. It's what makes it a fixation, right? It's what makes us all constantly like back to the churn. So
that's a good argument.
I just really, and my experience, right? I'm married to a 1. My experience is that it is absolutely resentment, like this constant, and he can come off it, but then it's like back to, why am I the only one who? Now, he won't say that because that's inappropriate. Like, he won't say those words, but that is the energy and like just the and it's a feeling too. Like he's the feeling is coming off of him without him saying it. TJ?
I feel like this conversation about hypersensitivity represents a very particular way of experiencing and understanding this thing that we're talking about. So if I were a third party observer to this conversation, it's
Which is a 9 you are.
Yeah, basically. And I've been in this discussion with Jeff before. Like to me, it is choosing hypersensitivity instead of resentment is a hypersensitive way of describing Jeff's resentment. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. Like it is a very particular way to describe the particular experience, which is representative of the hypersensitivity involved in the thing that some of us would use as resentment. Like it's
I'll buy it.
Backing up a little bit from this conversation, it seems to me like the word resentment has like it's a semantics discussion. I hear Jeff describing what he says is hypersensitivity, and I understand the resentment within that. And I also understand why he doesn't like the word resentment.
For sure.
Well, what one would?
Well, to be clear, this is a semantics discussion. And so if it were the case that we're going to elevate resentment, pairing it with anger in the mind, pairing it with a sense of criticalness in the mind matters, and pairing it, here will be the step towards 2s, pairing it with unproductive thinking, I think is going to be a real helpful thing here. It's the one is missing something because they haven't actually paused and really thought through things in a way that is helpful and matters. I think that's why hypersensitivity pings for me a little bit more, because hypersensitivity by its nature lacks thought. Resentment doesn't necessarily. If you have the sense of like lingering bitterness and indignation at people for perceived flaws and injustice.
But I think
scale.
that's where the unproductive thinking comes in. Like it as a fixation, resentment, the kind of resentment that I am talking about is non-thinking. It's a reactive, not a wisdom posture. It gets stuck in that, like it feeds itself. Not necessarily because it is well thought out, but because it is fed by, like, hypersensitivity is part of that experience of resentment, and it's fed by the anger, and it's not pausing to recognize, like, oh, this thing didn't happen to you, it just happened. Like the resentment believes it happened to me, right? Or these people don't care about this thing, or like it's a perception that's not objective.
Yeah.
And hypersensitivity and resentment, like they both fit very well into that space, remembering that it is not a productive thinking kind of place to be.
It's I think a little bit of a scale, right? It includes hypersensitivity for sure. It includes envy, and with envy, a sense of imbalance. That's not fair, or you can do that and I can't, and why? There's an element of self-suppression that is involved with resentment.
Huge element of self-repression.
There's also within resentment, I think one of the ways that it functions as a tool, as a fixation, as something useful, is that with resentment, there's always the comparative nature of envy and anger holding hands. Is there's an element of superiority, and that is sure as hell a tool for. Go ahead. Yes.
I have a question for you. So, like, I think this is where I'm stumbling, is that I can imagine somebody who's experiencing resentment, and it's different than what I want to think of as a fixation. Imagine a woman gets married to a man, they have a child. The man leaves 2 years after the birth of the child, leaving the woman alone to raise that child, and she feels resentment, that lingering sense of anger, bitterness, and indignation towards that man. That feels like something that's not necessarily the fixation that I would want to put my thumb on for ones.
If you zoom out, though, if you take all of the things that really play into that one situation and example, and we can look at it and say that resentment, traditional resentment, and traditional resentment, the way you sort of defined it as, I think seething was the word that you used. It scared me, and bitter and all that stuff. Yeah, that makes sense. But that's not always what we're talking about. The same way that when we're talking with, eights, we have to go, lust is not always inny and outy. You get what I'm saying? It's something else
I got
entirely.
thoughts on that too. We'll
Oh,
get to
yes,
that in a minute.
I got so many thoughts. Oh, someone DM'd me once and was like, can we please talk about eights and sex? Because we never do, because we're so focused on talking about how lust is not. Anyway, but all that to say, I think when we get hung up on a word and a definition, like there are other definitions that talk about how, resentment is an emotion rooted in envy, characterized by feelings of frustration, judgment, better than, superiority, arising from uncommunicated boundaries, unmet expectations, self-suppression, sometimes functioning as a bitter reaction to perceived injustice. So when we look at it one way, we think, how could this be the case all of the time? And that's not productive. And sure, but that is because we're looking at the exception, and pride functions differently in twos. There are a lot of times where the words as we know them don't quite make the cut for what the Enneagram is the journey the Enneagram is trying to take us on. So I don't think that seething, bitter, disgusting, I have to do everything myself and I married the wrong guy, is always the case. Sometimes I think there's an element of superiority. There's an element of keeping themselves in line that comes with resentment, that comes from, it holds hands with their need to be above it all, need to be above reproach.
Last thoughts on ones? Thank you for spending an extra measure of time.
Sorry. Can't stop, won't stop.
My last
I
thought,
keep picking.
my unconscious, right? So the conscious, why am I the only one who does this? With then also the self-correction of I shouldn't be this angry, like this sort of That's the conscious level. But the unconscious level is like living with, it's not mental, it's living with the low grade irritation that colors everything. It doesn't have a clear source. It's like any circumstance can come in and ping that low grade irritation. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be a person, it can be a baseboard. Personal example. Like Bob and I'll be standing, I say in line, at our bathroom. And he'll suddenly be like, oh my gosh, these walls need painted. Oh my gosh. This, like, things that are just not right are always available to be pinged because the body experience of the low grade irritation is just always right there.
Sounds like
It's
he's
not even mental.
hypersensitive to
It's
the
just
paint on
automatic.
your walls.
I know. Thankfully, then he just does it. He just fixes all the things.
The pivot to twos, and I suppose
We already did 2s. Let's go to 6s.
Nice try.
I have as
Nice.
the fixation of twos being flattery. This has always been kind of a maybe. Let's
No,
see.
it works.
What do you
100.
think?
I hate it. The
This is
the some of the phrasing, I mean, like, I use a bunch of phrasing, but like one thing that I don't remember who I got this from, but feeling like they need an overtly approving audience, like overtly approving is, if without overt approval, it's disapproval. Like the same way that because I was the last one here, I was late. I was late.
even though it wasn't even.
No, I
10
was
o'clock
late.
yet.
But you don't understand. You don't get it.
I'm learning.
Nope. No, what I do, I looked at the clock. You weren't late.
Yeah, exactly. Objective.
Anyway, no, but I one of the things
This is so good.
when
Keep
I
overt. Yes.
when I talk to people about how hi Jones, when I talk to people about how if we're looking for help and casseroles, like I only really help my friends, help. Flattery, you got me good. That is how I know I'm a 2. You got me good with flattery, and I got you good. And sometimes, like Joey Shuey released a book recently, and I commented congratulations, and I was like, oh my god, she's gonna think I'm flattering her. And then I was like, nope, you're just paranoid because you do that to people. But I actually wanted to wish her well because I read that thing in 24 hours. It was amazing. But all that to say, I'm like, yeah, flattery, absolutely. For me, it is. As a person who doesn't care about control the way that we define it in the Enneagram, it is the one thing that makes me feel like I can wrap my hands around something and do something.
Ooh, that was a good last line there.
I'm done. Move to 6.
Flattery comes, unfortunately, this gets worse. Flattery comes from two words. It's flat. It's you're laying flat before others, or you are looking for somebody to pat you with the flat of their hand. This is where the etymology works, and that's just piercing for me on the fronts that you're kind of staying. So fixating on the need for compliments,
The need to
expressions of
give.
attention, that at least pings for me on the 2 front of I would devote my mind, my mental energy to gaining attention in those expressions.
Gaining, engaging is kind of the phrase that I use, is gaining, engaging, right? So there's a constant, like we talk about 2's attention, like sort of going out. That's basically, I'm measuring for whether flattery worked or whether I have to do it again. And I hate saying that when I become conscious of it. I'm like, can I control alt delete the way I think? It's so weird. But it's like the when we talk about ones like doing reaction formation where their mouth says something and then their brain's like, what did I just say? Sometimes I feel like that with flattery, especially when I know that what I'm looking for from somebody else is grand old acceptance. It flies out of my mouth. Yep.
Kristen?
I don't know that I have anything to add.
Hasn't she been brave enough?
Is it a give to get? Like, is it a conscious giving to get? Do you want the thing that you're giving, or do you even know?
No. So I think that's a thing that actually doesn't stop for twos. I think that it's always going to be something from the outside that tells them. So it is.
Wait. What is the
Like when I catch myself, I open my mouth and I realize I am buttering somebody's muffin. That is a point where I recognize. I don't go in there and I'm like, well, time for mama to get what she wants, because I haven't connected with that. I don't know that I need. I don't know that I want. But that's I think that's the pride. But there is a screeching halt moment that can happen for twos, and flattery is the thing that I catch myself in all the time, and I'm like, why do I keep going back there? You know. And that's why I have to go, well, what did I need? I often talk to twos about, we talk, what do I need? What's mine to do, or what do I need, and things like that in present tense. I think also, what did I need? What was I trying to do there is also very helpful.
So useful.
Yeah.
And then to pair it with the pride, right? So the pride, I think this is why it's so important to pair the two, because it's like, oh, I know what they need. Like, I don't need to ask. I don't need to wonder. I don't need to have any vulnerability here, because it's so clear to me what would be the right thing to say, what this person needs to hear.
Not to move us so fast, but just as what you're talking about with them going hand in hand, I'm very curious how fear, cowardice as a passion and fear, cowardice as a fixation go hand in hand. I'm so curious who has thought that. Yeah, because sometimes I say
we're still talking about twos.
I thought we were
TJ hasn't gotten to unload yet.
TJ, you can just send me a voice note about it. What are you doing?
You don't want that either. What are you talking about?
Are you saying his presence doesn't matter, Jackie?
No, I would never say that.
What I think is interesting about twos, one of the things, is when they're doing the flattery thing and I'm not receiving it. I feel like the dial just gets turned up. Instead of like an ability to be like, oh, this isn't landing or whatever, and it's just like, oh my goodness gracious. And I don't mean you, Jackie, actually, by the way, just so you know, this is not this one time with Jackie. I have twos in my life. And that is so fascinating to me, where it's like, I'm trying to toss you some like social awarenesses. And it's just because the one note thing, right, which I think we need to come back to, it's like, but what I got to give is this. So that's just very interesting to me, where it's like, I'm like, stop. And there's not a stopping.
Yeah.
Shimmy.
So
which is what we're all doing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think a lot throughout this list, I've thought a lot about the list of things that we settle for that we brought up last time.
Oh.
And flattery to me feels very much in this vein of the thing that twos sort of settle for. And it's like from that place of pride moves, like gets stuck in the heart, and we move into the head, and now it becomes, I am totally comfortable with this surface level relationship that shows approval, and I'll do everything in my power to make sure that we maintain this, like, so long as it seems like we love each other, that is good enough.
Ding, ding, ding.
And it just becomes that pattern.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Delete
Sixes.
It hurts my heart.
And
So
unfortunately
threes.
with
we're doing triads, I get it.
Yeah, with threes, we see this with threes as well, but unfortunately, like it doesn't have to be based in reality. And to me, that's the place where
It's
it comes
based in
where
response.
It, like, really gets, like, that is what the flattery is. Pride can still be based in reality because I know your needs and I am providing for your needs.
Yeah. External process.
Flattery moves into the space where it does not have to have a root in reality.
It's very good.
Wow.
Wait, you think it doesn't have to have a... I missed
Flattery
your setup
does
there.
not.
That you
It's
settle
it's a
for.
perceived...
I am gaining. I'm gauging whether or not I feel a sense of acceptance and approval through all of my amazing forms of attention through other people. Also,
words of acceptance and approval prove the acceptance.
See also manipulation, seduction. Yeah.
I think there's a distinction to be made here in terms of what someone is fixated on versus the feedback that they get. Fixation for me, I would want to say, is much more about the mental targeting in an excessive position. So I'm looking for flattery. I'm looking for somebody to affirm me in the ways that matter. The mental, how do I get this, would be what I suppose goes through my mind in terms of fixations. That how does your mind spin in terms of getting your motive in an excessive state?
I think it's a fallback tool, right? Fall back on vanity, fall back on flattery, fall back on stinginess. Go ahead.
I think it might only appear mental to the mental types. I think that it is a thought component. Obviously, that's what we're talking about. But how does it appear to the individual?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that's the same for the different centers.
Well, if you were to say, what's the mental life of a two look like in excess? I think this is what we're looking for. Whatever the word would be for that would be, what's a two look like mentally in excess in terms of their own motive,
so it's not about them. It's
self-understanding,
about
and
other
processes.
people.
No, it's
So
about
the
it's about
fixation is, what do
yeah,
they
well,
need?
yeah, I mean,
What do they want? It's a
you are
blindness to self.
So TJ brought up subjectivity with the ones. It's kind of subjectivity runs across all the types on this front. Your mind is seeking to get what you want. And if you are in a space where you have allowed fear to overwhelm a healthy way of getting your motive, and it's replaced by these cotton candy substitutes, which promote the passion and move into your head as how could I get more of that, and you get into that doom loop. I do like that string of movement myself. It's kind of like at the end of the road, where do you find the unhealthy version of your type mentally spinning? And that, I suppose it makes sense to me that the two would be in a mental space, unhealthy twos would be in a mental space where they're like, I need to get more pats. How do I get them? And that's the mental state.
I mean, we can ask Jackie, are you thinking that? Or are you thinking about other people? Are you thinking, how am I going to get more pats? Like, I don't,
It's not
is that
as
conscious? I don't think
it's not a formed thought.
Exactly.
And again, I think it goes back to what alerts me to that kind of self-awareness is that something breaks or something stops me, something on the outside alerts me, or I read someone's response because I can never not, and I could actually pick up a do not continue or something like wakes you up, right? But yeah, it's not conscious, because if it was conscious, if it was a plan, it wouldn't happen, and then pride wouldn't be a factor or a thing at all.
the fixation is about other people. That's the flattery. Like, ooh, I know what they need. I know what that person needs to hear. Ooh, I'm going to ask that person for this and thus and such. I'm going to throw them a compliment. That would, to me, be what is fixated upon. Your own needs are like not in awareness. If you heard the thought, this is actually about me, the pride wouldn't allow that thought. The pride would shuttle that to the elsewhere, right?
If we're thinking of flattery as in I'm literally buttering somebody's muffin because I want something out of them, then that's, like I want them to tell me I look I'm telling you you look pretty because I want you to tell me I look pretty. Then okay, but if we say the essence of flattery in this case is seduction, right? Is seeming to have more to offer than is the case to gain this overt approval. that is what the two mentally falls back on.
And the approval is the thing that matters.
Yes.
Like me, damn it.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to name that 2s, 5s, and 8s don't know what they want.
Word.
They're not in touch with their needs. They're pushing for their motive, security, attention, control. Everything else is on the chopping block internally in their unhealthiest state if they haven't done business with their inner life. At least that would be my take. Am I wrong there?
No.
I mean,
No.
the rest of us know what we need. I don't know.
There, we are 2, 5, and 8 are purposefully and differently and more defensively disconnected from their needs.
By a degree. That makes sense. I like
Yeah.
that.
And just to draw the line there, the stinginess, the withholding has to do with not engaging with what I actually need,
Yes.
but needing to keep what I have.
Right.
So be the
All right, are we
opposite.
doing this? Cowardice.
I have mistrust. You have cowardice. I would love to throw out some reasons for reconsidering cowardice, but what's your thoughts there, Kristen?
Cowardice is correct. Cowardice is the deep, deep, deep belief, right? This isn't like conscious belief. It's the deep sense that I can't handle uncertainty, right? That I can't handle what life is going to offer me unless I have support, a plan, blah, 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 blah. So all of the fixating, what if this goes wrong? Create a problem, solve a problem, create a problem, solve a problem. That's all because I don't believe I can just contact life. The cowardice is the disconnection from my own will. So untrusting just doesn't get there. It just doesn't, it's not meaty enough. It's not deep enough in my
Let me push into that
opinion
for a
and
second.
experience.
Mistrust, distrust builds on that same idea of I can't
It
handle.
builds on it. It's not
But it also includes other people, which I think needs to get added for the 6. You don't.
No, it is added.
Try-
It's I can't contact it. That's why I'm always grasping for an external set of guidelines or person, institution. So the other people is the fix.
Yeah.
That's the fixation, is that I need other people. I need a set of rules. I'm just going to repeat myself because I can't myself. That's the cowardice. Myself, there isn't, there's nothing there.
What would you say
That's the lie.
The passion is for 6s, if not cowardice?
Fear.
Okay.
The passion is fear. You could say doubt, maybe, but I think of doubt as more of a thinky thing. So it's full of fear, meeting this belief that without rules, people, blah, 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 I can't. Like, I don't have what it takes.
Thoughts?
None, Your Honor.
How do we distinguish fear for the 6 from fear for the 5 and 7?
Hold on, I want to hear what TJ is thinking about my impassioned defense of cowardice.
I prefer doubt or mistrust as the passion or sin, largely because I don't think that doubt is necessarily. I think, especially when we're talking about doubt for 6s, I don't think it's a mental process. I think it's an untouchable way of navigating the world. Like it's deeply seated. Like it's not about mental power, because if it was, 6s could overcome it with logic. Does that make sense?
No.
So, like, we don't need to get stuck on that. I think a big part of the problem with cowardice then is, what do you do with sixes who spend more time on the counterphobic end of the spectrum?
That's where I
I
would
can
want to
tell
talk
you.
about as well.
Please.
Okay. Well, what are your questions?
No,
'Cause this
that's
is
the question.
me. I
Like,
spend more time
if-
on that side of things. Yeah.
If the response is cowardice, then how do you explain the six that says, "Oh, I'll
Okay.
show you I'm not afraid"?
Allow me.
Please.
The six that is saying, I will show you I'm not afraid, is pushing against someone or something always. It's never their own will being exerted.
Yeah.
It's, I find myself in an against posture. When they're having that experience, is they miss that because it feels powerful. But without that being institution, all the same things to go against, they're just left adrift. So it's the orientation to external authority that makes them feel like they're sturdy. Without that, it's an empty vessel of,
Sure.
I can't do it. But you won't contact that because it's too painful. It's too scary. I mean, this has literally been my journey because that was me. I was the burn it all down, take out every bad authority. I had no clue that was because without doing that, right, I would just be left with this gaping fear and no sense of myself.
You would describe
So
those acts as cowardly acts?
No, I would describe them as covering up cowardice, as it doesn't feel cowardly, but you have to have a stronger system to go against for the action to occur. That's what makes it cowardice. It's not just me like, hey, I've got a great idea. I'm going to go assert this in the world. No, I have to contact someone. It's the againstness that makes it feel and look powerful. But that isn't my own will moving forward. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look like cowardice because what's actually going on is very much unconscious. Mm-hmm. So what it looks like is a constant focus on problems, a constant question. What if this goes wrong? I need to make sure I can fix that. What if this unjust authority keeps doing what they're doing? Everyone's going to be at risk. I need to focus on that and do something about that. What if this? What if that? What if this? What if that? That's the constant, that's the fixated thinking piece.
Yeah, what's the word for that?
And it's constant.
Constant worst case scenario thinking. What's
But
the word
it
for that?
doesn't look like worst case scenario thinking. That's what I just drives me.
Sorry.
But it is. But it doesn't feel that way, right? It just feels very rational. Like we all could do a better job of forecasting what could go wrong and doing some work around that. It's just like on hyperdrive.
Forecasting is a good word.
Right. But what's behind, right? It's like what's under. Anyway, whatever.
Is forecasting a negative? Like,
I don't think so.
Could it get qualified as a negative? You're constantly forecasting. Similar to sevens, you're constantly
Of course
scheming.
it's a negative, but it's the fixation.
Yeah.
It can be negative, but it can be really positive. Yeah. Well, no, it would. Why are we against? Why do we need to? I'm just really curious. The general resistance in the room to the word cowardice, as I, the six, have told you it's correct. I'm very interested in this.
I'm talking a lot. I'll tell you what my thoughts are.
No, I'm
about
talking a lot, but it's my number.
I just think cowardice should fits more cleanly in the passion and sin category because fear, unfortunately, is not exclusive to sixes. That would be the thing. What is it what's the passion that's exclusive to sixes is something I think semantically is very valuable when having these discussions.
It'd have to be doubt then.
And I think that, well, I actually had doubt as my
We can agree on
cowardice and
doubt
doubt, I
and
think,
move on.
goes together. Okay. We don't need to move on. This is
The point that the reason it matters so much is it's this disconnection from essential will, right? That is the part that sixes need to get in touch with, is their essential will. And cowardice is what describes the disconnection from that essential quality better than anything else. I can't hack it. by myself. That's that deep, deep, deep rooted message. And doubt doesn't quite get there, and mistrust doesn't quite get there. I can't get it. You know, in Sandra Maitre's book, she says it's self-castration. And it's like, that's what we're talking about here. Hypersensitive is me, okay? Not you, Jeff.
Got him.
Well, I want to go ahead. Sorry.
This is really fun,
Again, we're talking about semantics. To me, like, part of why this is so hard is our understanding of fear and cowardice is deeply distorted by the way that it's presented in modern American culture, right? Like it's not necessarily about like what we want to talk about when we talk about fear. It's about whether or not there's a tiger in the room, and if we jump on that tiger, then that's not cowardice, right? But there's so many other types of ways of understanding what cowardice is, meaning we have these kinds of discussions. I also think that we've done a very bad job historically teaching about sixes. And part of that is because we only understand sixes from what we see of them. And that has to do with, you know, their fear of speaking up and lack of trust in their own ability to communicate themselves properly. So a lot of this discussion, like I feel like we could have this discussion around and around and around and around and all still be talking about the same thing.
Yeah. It's
need
pretty
content.
annoying. It's pretty annoying to be a six in this room who has been on a mission to explain sixes in like 170 podcast episodes, and to kind of be argued with about what I've come to as I also work with them. I'm just like, are you kidding me right now?
Do it right, and we won't argue with you.
Yeah, I mean, right and wrong thinking is...
Like,
I'm-
here
I'm
I
all
am,
for it.
essential willing it all over the place, and you guys are like, meh.
Okay,
Like,
so
I can't even believe this is reality.
big part of why I struggle with the word cowardice is because of the way that it affects, like when I talk about fear and cowardice with sixes, it
yeah, they're not
moves
gonna like
them into a place where they can't get past the sort of modern understandings of fear and cowardice.
Yep.
And we can't talk about the thing that's deeper underneath
That's
that,
a different problem. Yep.
which is fair.
I'm here calling a spade a spade. That doesn't mean sixes can hear it.
So how can we get to language where it pings for sixes without sending them into a doom loop?
That's a very different question.
We have to, I don't think we do enough time. We don't take enough time explaining, you know, fear the motive and then fear the trap. Well, I'm using fear reductively, right? Like fear the motive and then fear the trap and then fear as in the opposite of the thing you really want, security. And then fear as the tool, aka the fixation. Like we don't really do it a lot of distinguishing, because then I think that's why we need all these crazy semantics to be like, well, this one's cowardice and this one's doubt and this one's anxiety, but we can't say that. Like we have so many. I don't think we do enough distinguishing, and then we start lumping them together and we go, sixes are scaredy cats. And that's all we got.
I mean, I don't do any of that, but I understand.
We
the
know
rest
that you
of the
don't do
Enneagram
it,
community
Kristen.
does. Yeah. Well, it matters. It matters that I've done a lot of work.
Yes, you have.
Two things to move us forward. That was fantastic. One, three
really
things.
was.
One, that was fantastic. Two, in my view, Kristen Mesgia is the worldwide expert on sixes, and I would love to elevate that as my opinion. That
Agreed.
doesn't mean I don't get to disagree with experts occasionally and push them
You
in their thinking when you
can.
get great
Push
responses,
against
which
the
you are
authority.
giving. You're giving great
Push against the
responses.
authority. And of course, taking the position of the authority is terrifying. So this conversation will haunt me all day and into tomorrow morning. That'll be fun for me.
You'll be fixated
And
on this fixation
I'll be like texting
conversation?
Jeff, okay, can we just talk? I mean, I won't because I've done my work, but like,
I would invite that. I like those conversations. Lastly, dear listener, you will notice that TJ Wilson is amazing. He's the only one who didn't take our conversation about fixations personally.
I just don't care that much.
All of us got a little energized when our type was on stage.
I don't know what it is. My conversations with other nines, like we do not have
be
the
a
same
fly.
kind of response to our shadow as a lot of other.
well, you
people.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
You don't.
It's like, oh yeah, that's me. Tell it. Yeah.
I really want to hear those. Okay, conversations.